how much does the Earth cost? Think
It's
about
not a bad question.
what is the Earth
Everything.
worth?
All the things on Earth.
Greg Laughlin posted this in 2009 trying to calculate the value of a planet inspired by the Kepler mission. He took the price at which Louisiana was purchased, that is 15 million in gold bullion and bonds. This price was for about 2 million square meters of land, or approximately 1% of the Earth's total land. Using gold price as a measure of inflation, that equates to around 750 million US dollars. The net worth of Taylor Swift in 2013. Heck, you can't even afford 2025 Taylor with that. So that itself kind of shows why this method is not that great. Earth obviously has a lot more valuable things than just land. So Greg uses this equation, which I fondly call Greg's equation. It isn't as scary as it looks. The first term, 6 into 10 raised to 6, is the estimated cost of the Kepler's mission divided by the number of planets it hoped to find. The next term is T star, which is the age of the given planet, divided by 5 into 10 raised to 8. So if a star is older than 500 million years, it is more than 1, which means it boosts the price. If it is younger, it discounts the price. The next term is planet's mass to star's mass ratio. Because big star burn fast and ends fast and small star burns less and stays for longer, we prioritize planets which have smaller stars which last for long. The next term is the planet's mass's closeness to Earth, which means that basically if a planet's mass is similar to that of the Earth, we increase its price because we are so self-centered, right? Then this part of the equation measures how similar the temperature of the planet is equal to that of the Earth. The next term shows how new the discovery is because wow. Now if you use this equation to find the Earth's value, you get around 5 into 10 raised to $15. But like all great things, this formula also has its downsides. In an interview with Boing, when asked about Venus, Greg says, yeah, Venus is a great example. It does pretty well in the equation and actually gets the value of about $1.5 quadrillion. If you tweak its reflectivity a bit to factor in its bright clouds. This echoes what unfolded for Venus in the first half of the 20th century when astronomers saw these bright clouds and thought that they were water clouds. And that is really humid and warm on the surface. It gave rise to this idea in the 1930s that the Venus was a jungle planet. So if you put this in the formula and it has an explosive valuation, then you'd show up to the surface of the Venus and face the reality of lead melting on the surface beneath sulfuric acid clouds, and everyone would want their money back. But Greg was not the only person who tried to put a price to planets. Before him, a paper was published in Nature titled "The Value of the World's Ecosystem Services and Natural Capital." Interesting. This paper asks how do we put a price on climate change. They use IAMs, which are models which combine climate science and economics to show how much carbon emissions will be caused and how it will damage us. This paper uses a concept called as social cost of carbon, or SCCs. It is the estimated cost of releasing 1 more ton of carbon dioxide into the universe. That means if SCC is $50, that means that for every 1 new ton released in the atmosphere, we are bearing a cost of $50. Economists also consider how much money actually helps depending on the person's wealth. This affects how we calculate the global impact of climate change, and to calculate the global impact of climate change, you need to know how Earth was valued before climate change. But more often than not, the losses calculated by this method are discounted by something called as future discounting. This is because economists believe money is worth more right now than later. That is, $100 today is more valuable than $100 2 years later. But how much exactly do we discount is very controversial and hard to calculate. And this is also one of the main flaws of this method. With that caveat in mind, this paper predicts a global annual flow value of ecosystem services to be around $16 to $54 trillion per year, with an average of $33 trillion per year. Another study in 2019-20 by the Economic Business Journal tries to put a dollar value on the planet's natural infrastructure. And it also tries to show how much of that value we as humans have eroded away from the planet. They gathered dozens of published studies, reports, scientific studies, etc. for each ecosystem type and noted the dollar value estimates for it. Then they scaled these pre-new values up. For example, if a tree has $500 worth of value, we multiplied by the 1 trillion trees on Earth. Similar valuations from biodiversity, hydrology, etc. were scaled up. Then they subtract this value from pre-human levels to calculate cumulative loss. They found out the pre-human value to be $38 quadrillion and the value in 2020 after human impacts to be $33 quadrillion. So to conclude, the value of Earth can range from 5 quadrillion to 38 quadrillion to 342 trillion depending on what method you use. So if you're buying the Earth, you better have very deep pockets. That's it. Bye.